Say, before we make this jump, anybody want to say a few words?
I figure if God can hear how scared I am, so can everyone else.
Hello, this is Matt, and I'm here with Dave Horton from GamesRadar, and we are going to talk about Halo 5. Dave, you've been playing Halo 5. Is it good?
At the moment, we're just going to talk about the campaign because
Okay.
we've not had enough time with the multiplayer yet. Having finished the campaign, it's not bad. It is ultimately an enjoyable video game first-person shooter campaign, but for all the new bells and whistles, it is kind of one that succeeds despite that rather than because of it.
Okay, so the stuff that's new in it, we'll go through each of these things individually. Let's start with the squad stuff, because I think this is maybe the biggest change, and it's the one that makes it feel like it might be a little bit different from all the Halos that have come before it. How different does it make it?
Yeah, because now, previously, you were the chief in single player. If you played co-op with other people, it'd just drop an extra chief in, which was fine. Now there is perpetually a 3 other people AI squad if you're playing a single player. Those numbers are always locked down. I think perhaps to make up for the lack of Cortana, to give you some sort of radio chatter in your ear the whole time. They are unfortunately a bit of a non-entity in that respect. They're just kind of there. In terms of gameplay, it definitely is not detrimental in the way a lot of us expected it to be. They don't run in and kill steal. They don't get in your way. A lot of the time you'll run into a fight, get stuck in as you do in Halo, and find them like half a mile behind. The only time they are responsible for badness, though, is during the new respawn system, which is really weird. Now, rather than just dying when your armor goes down, you'll go into like a bleeding out state, like in Gears of War, for instance.
Right.
And you'll be on a timer. You have finite time to survive. To get picked up, you'll have to call in one of your squads to revive. And this is the point it falls over, almost literally, in fact, because it doesn't always happen by any means, but there is a good chance they will come, because they're quite dumb, they'll charge in, get killed by exactly what killed you, and then fall over, and then the process will start again. And then someone will have to come in and save them, and then they'll die as well.
Just bodies piling
Often there's just this hilarious slapstick procession of falling corpses while you inevitably wait for death. So it would have been solved if there was an option to just give up, but there isn't. So it's a game that doesn't let you die, but also won't let you sort yourself out either sometimes.
That's bleak. That was a bleak sentence.
Yeah, it's irritating.
Okay.
What do you think that's about?
So, I mean, that sounds a little bit hit and miss, but I think the other thing that really separates this, and certainly in the bits that I've played so far, is just that I hate the word verticality, but it kind of is that. The fact that the chief can move around, and it's not just you're not going along the ground. The stages kind of are up and down and all around.
Yeah.
How does that work?
In isolation, really bloody well, actually. On its own, it's a really fun, really good combat model. It really reminds me of the way the new Doom works, actually. It's very mantle-based. Anything you see in front of you can be cover or something to climb up and jump off. You've got, when you're in the air at a decent height, you can do a directed, downward ground smash, which is really good for moving around. You've got a rocket-powered punch dash now as well. And it's weird at first, but when you think about it, it's really a logical evolution of Halo. Because Halo's always had that wonderful kind of sort of semi-balletic kind of improvisational back and forth combat on a lateral plane, and it just takes that vertical now as well. So the philosophy is the same. It just works in two different directions, and after a while it starts to feel really natural. Only issue is that's in isolation, and it doesn't work in isolation, and the level design and AI don't always keep up with it. A lot of the times enemy types you're generally dealing with the same Covenant and Forerunner guys you were dealing with in Halo 4. They have not really been respec'd much to deal with the verticality. So say you find a big high flanking path and go snipey snipes, you'll suddenly find them all on the ground floor just looking up at you, waiting for you to come back down again. They jump around a bit, but never really in a way that seems particularly focused.
Okay, I think the example you said was that in Destiny you encounter lots of enemies that kind of expect to chase you.
But in Destiny every kind of race has got 2 or 3 jumping or flying classes, and they'll bring the fight to you whatever you do. In Halo 5 you just sort of feel a bit like they're kind of stuck to the spots, and they're just kind of not all the time, but a lot of the time they kind of wait for you to engage them on their terms, really. Similarly, in terms of level design, when it goes really big and wide, which on paper makes sense given your new capabilities, it doesn't really do it in a terribly interesting way. Sometimes it's just big for big's sake, which makes a lot of the encounters not really matter. You can just kill the ones in your way and charge through, leave the rest as background noise, and it's not fun, but it does leave you with a sort of definitely less of a sense of involvement than you'd expect from a Halo game.
Does that feel like that throughout the entire campaign? Does the campaign kind of is it a big cohesive whole?
It ebbs and flows. I mean, there's the bigger, wider stuff generally happens more in the first half of the game for some reason. The second half is much more traditional Halo in terms of its design. I mean, the level designs are very much more built around the kind of focus that makes that Halo combat sing, and it's times like that the new additions really act as great little augments rather than sort of awkward garnishes that are fun but don't quite gel. I mean, it varies massively depending on the mission.
Okay.
But yeah.
So the story in Halo, for me certainly, I would play a Halo game and then finish it and go on Wikipedia and find out what just happened.
Yeah.
Is that the same in this? How is the story?
Oh, it's not good, but for different reasons.
Okay.
There isn't a story really at all. Whereas Halo, you get a lot of lore thrown at you traditionally that goes straight past you in the heat of battle. Now it's a case of there being too little going on. Ultimately, the problem is this is the first act of a new trilogy, but what they've made is the first act of a game and stretched it out to game length and have not given it a self-contained story that works in its own right. Ultimately, the lock campaign it feels like it's there just to extend the running time without adding any actual real narrative worth to it.
I mean, that was quite a big deal in the lead up to this.
They've made a huge deal out of that, but it kind of feels like, kind of marketing wise, what's the thing you've got we can make for a hook? We've sort of got this, right, let's make that sound really big then. In the game, it's barely a thing, really.
So it doesn't sound hugely positive, but I think it's fair to say, it's not bad, is it?
It's certainly not bad. The thing is, for all these, and it sounds very negative, but for all these problems, there is still a quite high minimum level of enjoyment you get from Halo combat, because the thing Bungie kind of invented 15 years ago still works incredibly well, even with a few bells and whistles kind of diluting it or not quite gelling, and with the sort of narrative and level design issues it's got. The core moment-to-moment stuff is still really, really, really good. It's just a game that it's at its most interesting and fresh when it's at its least successful, unfortunately.
Okay, so recommended, but with a few caveats.
Campaign is worth playing, but don't expect it to kind of resonate in the way previous Halo campaigns have.
Awesome, that's perfect. Dave, thank you very much indeed. Cheers.